Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you being here. All right, so getting back, obviously a tough loss up there in Raleigh. Watching film, thought our team played hard. We were physical, played with toughness, but defense played awesome. Defense certainly gave us a chance to win that game in so many different ways, but we ran the ball pretty well, but we turned the ball over and we weren't very effective in the red zone and ended up being the difference in the game. So got back and right to work right away. This team certainly has shown some resiliency throughout the year when we have suffered a setback, and it was no different in our return. And certainly there was a lot of just energy and a lot of focus on preparing for Florida State this coming weekend. So questions, please.
Mario, you mentioned on the radio this morning about how you and the staff are constantly assessing things, and you were asked about Tyler and Emery. Does that kind of mean you guys are going to be looking at whoever has the best week in practice will get the start on Saturday, or is it kind of business as usual when it comes to the quarterback?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question, and I would respectfully say this is just from a game planning standpoint and a team dynamic standpoint, I wouldn't use this forum to discuss a personnel move, especially at that position, right? Because it affects so many different things. What I would always say is that we're always competing at every position, we're always assessing, and we always make the decisions that give us the best chance to win. So again, respectfully, we kind of keep everything regarding, personnel moves in-house and tight.
When you assess quarterback play, how much do turnovers factor into your assessment on
We've struggled, to your question. Turnovers it's cost us football games, right? So we have progressed as a team in so many different areas. In the last 4 weeks, we have regressed in the passing game. We have, and it's a combination of things. There's no masking that. We certainly don't sidestep that. So, and when you assess, the passing game, you assess, how does it relate to the running game? How does protection fit in? How does protection as it relates to the backs? How's the route running? So it's a huge area of focus, and it's tied into some of the turnovers that we've had as well. And it is a top priority for us.
How do you feel like the receivers have been doing in recent weeks? Are they getting enough separation? Are they running the correct depths like you would want?
I think sometimes we have, sometimes we haven't. I think there is effort, and sometimes there's lapses. I think man coverage, at times we beat it, other times we get snugged up pretty good. There's progress, and sometimes there's lapses. I think there was improvement in effort this past week. When you play against a drop 8 outfit, it's a little bit different, right? It's going to be drop 8, it's going to be man, some form of 1 or 0. They play some of that cloud coverage too, when those are small, but I wouldn't point a finger at that position or any position in particular. I would put it on us as a whole, as an organization, coaches and players, everything. And I know it's a very generic and mundane answer. It's just this forum, I like to give as much information as possible without ever fracturing what we believe in, which is make sure we own it, as a whole. But do we need to improve there and everywhere else? Yes.
Areas where you've kind of progressed a little bit. Where have you seen the team progress in the last few weeks that you really liked?
Well, I think our running game against tough looks continues to get better. Those are tough yards. I think we managed to do probably a better job getting the ball down the red zone than most squads against this last outfit. We knew it would be a grinder of a game. The play count in the games against NC State have been low, but we got down there 3 times, and just outside of the red zone a 4th time, we walked out with 3 points. That's not good enough. Our defense continues to get better and better against the run. We've been able to present multiple looks, play multiple coverages, play a lot of different guys, and we continue to get better there. We played a significant amount of young guys on special teams as well. Our coverage units have improved. Guys like Popo Aguirre making big tackles down there on kickoff. So we see all that stuff again. Where we saw regression was in the turnover department and the ability to throw the football.
I know there's not one way to do everything, obviously, but when you look at your contemporaries in the ACC, like Cabo was famously, I think, 6 and 7 in year 2. FSU under Mike was 5 and 7 in the second year. When you take over something, it's going to take years to get it exactly the way you need it to be. Do you look at blueprints from other places and look at the ebbs and flows of what goes on at other rebuilds when you're trying to put one together?
I think I always do. I always try to learn more and more in everything that we do as we put Miami to where it needs to be. I like using the experience of being here before, the experience of going to Rutgers, the experience of going to FIU, the experience of going to Oregon. They were all very similar. You know, one was 4-8, one was 0-12, another one was 1-11. So there's a lot of similarities. And then, of course, the experience up at Alabama where getting there and sustaining it is just as hard, maybe harder, right? And which is similar to the experience as a player, which is different, you know. But without a doubt, you know, you look at what are the common traits, right? What are the similarities in all those blueprints? And some of it is consistency, right? Systematic consistency. Some of it, a lot of it is personnel, right? Talent acquisition, getting in one class after another, making sure those classes have continue to grow, mature, and develop. When those guys are juniors and seniors, you know, what that product looked like for those places and how different they were when they started. So, yeah, I think it's a constant study, always trying to find ways to tweak and improve the blueprint that we have.
It's rival. I know every game counts the same. Your job's to win on 12 like that. You know so much is made more of this week. And is the timing of this and what your team is going through right now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And dealing with a little adversity in a rivalry week. Is that something you think?
I think it's always a good time for a rivalry game, right? It's what college football has always been and will always be about. And the intensity, the pageantry, the passion behind it is awesome. It's incomparable.
Mario, Tyler's obviously had a rough past 3 days and very rough on social media. How is he? Even if he doesn't look at it, it's very tough to escape that now. How's he doing?
He's good. He's tough. He's resilient. I don't know how much social media affects him or, you know, people in general. So that can never be a factor for it. That has nothing to do with the work that needs to be done. The team itself, the areas to improve, teammates, goals, all that kind of stuff. So, but he is very determined to be the best teammate he could possibly be and the best player he could possibly be. So he's being Tyler Van Dyke.
Okay. And the other thing is, Brashard Smith had a good game against Clemson, but he's only gotten 4 touches from scrimmage since that game. Well, why isn't he getting more opportunities? Is there a reason?
I think there's a concerted effort to get him more opportunities. You know, early in the game last week, we tried him on the slot fade, and that thing didn't hit. It's certainly part of the game plan. He's been a really good player for us, especially when he gets the opportunity to get out there in space and do some things. But it's certainly not out of design where he's not getting the ball. In fact, it's the opposite. You know, there's plenty of play design to try to get him the ball. The ball just hasn't found its way there.
So, Jayden and Daryl both bucked the game on Saturday. Do you have any status updates on them?
Jayden is he's fine. He's perfect. Daryl was a little bit off on Saturday, but we feel very optimistic about him. He looked pretty good today.
And then I guess same thing like Ray, Elijah Arroyo, and AJ Allen both fell out on Saturday too.
Ray looked really good today, so we expect him to be a full go. AJ looks good today, expect him to be a full go, and I believe Arroyo, we'll see him later today, but we feel optimistic he'll be a full go as well.
You kind of go-to running back, it seems like. And some of it's been because of guys get banged up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But you've had the hot hand of three or four different guys have been the hot hand at times this year. On the one hand, that's good. You've got guys with that sort of potential. On the other hand, from week to week, you don't know who the guy is. How difficult is that?
It hasn't been because it's played itself out. You know, we're not big at running back. You know, Fletcher's large man, you know, and Chaney's got some size to him, but we're not like overly imposing at running back. So they run hard. You know, we really emphasize running hard and certainly securing the football. So it's because those guys do, you know, they run in loaded boxes and they take on safeties and they got to be involved in protection. If they do get banged up and they are forced to miss some time, we feel very confident in the next man up just because there's been so much, I would say, there hasn't been enough separation, right? And I believe this past week, Mark Fletcher certainly showed something different because that's a very difficult team to run the ball against. And you saw some of the contact plus 2, 3, even 4 yards, some of the arm tackles he'd run through. I mean, he was flat out impressive.
Watching film early on, just what stands out about this FSU team, a team that's, you know, really similar to last year's team?
A very upperclassman-laden team, very talented, very stout, big, strong at the line of scrimmage, and very explosive at the skill positions. Quarterback certainly a difference maker.
Coach, in a matchup that has lasted 72 years, and you know, for it to be a very important environment for your team to play well under against the 4th-ranked team in the nation, what do you feel is the most important thing to prepare your team, as you know, you're a former player, kind of facing that environment as well?
The intensity behind practice and preparation is always the most important thing. You've got to be able to win your Monday, Tuesday, your Monday through Friday, right? Because your practice and preparation is going to end up being your game reality. And then come game time, making sure that that practice and preparation makes its way onto the field in the form of high-level execution and in the form of making sure that you're not creating your own turnovers, that you're not having penalties that, you know, you could avoid. So being able to execute at a high level with a lot of passion, play really, really hard, play really physical, finish plays, and play together.
I know you try to stay this way at all times, but
And here it is.
in here, yes. Do you find that the juice is getting, even at your highly caffeinated level, do the juices get a little hot this week?
They're always hot, you know. I mean, you gotta, when I come into this forum here, I gotta, you know, professionally cover a lot of information. I gotta make sure that I'm as transparent as I can be without ever, like I mentioned earlier, affecting a team dynamic, because that's the most important part, you know, the locker room, as we continue to develop and grow and whatnot. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a former football player, man, you know. I mean, I love this game to the death. It's the DNA, it's life's blood, it's, you know, the best thing in the world, you know, of course, besides family and faith and all that. You know, it's, to us, like we talked about team today, why are we pissed? Why are we frustrated? Because we live and die to be a Miami Hurricane. So we care, it hurts. And the only response that we have is to get back to work. That's the only response we've seen from this team, which is awesome to see. Wouldn't expect and wouldn't want and wouldn't accept anything else.
Mario, they used the transfer portal incredibly up there to get themselves back on the map, so to speak. I think like 60% of their transfers are starting for them. Talk a little bit about that. So are they the prototype for the transfer portal?
They've done a great job with the transfer portal. They have several guys at several positions that are transfer portal acquisitions. So that's they've done a great job of identifying and acquiring transfer portal prospects that, again, have a lot of experience, you know, are in the junior and senior realm.
I mean, on their offense, Jordan Travis, speaking of transfers, Jordan Travis, Keon Coleman, Trey Benson, how difficult is it to stop those guys? Obviously, you know, saw them last year, had some difficulty against them.
Those are really high-level players. They're as good as you'll find in the country, and they play really, really hard.
You learned a year and a half into the ACC, you're getting ready to face the leaders of the ACC move on next week. Just what have you learned about the conference itself?
Very competitive. Every team has really good players. Quarterback play in this conference is really, really high. Defensive linemen in this conference you'll find a lot of, which there's not a ton of conferences that have high-level defensive linemen. I think every single week you see a high-level one here. Schematically, you'll see some pretty significant differences week to week. Like last week, I don't know if there's a team out there in the other conferences I've had a chance to coach and that plays that particular defense, you know? So it's almost like a different flavor every single week, but some high-level professionalism, some good coaching, and some really good players.
Mario, you were saying that FSU rivalry with UM is, I guess, special, obviously. Can you expound on that a little more about this rivalry and how so many kids know each other, grew up with each other, or what makes this one a little more?
I think it's the best one. I just, you know, played in it, coached in it, and I think it's the best one. There is intensity unmatched. So.
Do you worry that it's going to be a little too intense, you know, that they have to tone it down a little?
I think it's important to play on passion as opposed to emotion, right? Emotion could kind of go up and down and lead you to maybe overthink or not think or whatnot. But in terms of, I think the energy and the juice behind it take care of itself. We got to make sure we do, and everybody, to do a really good job on focusing on what to do, how to do it, why to do it that way. Assignment football, and let the intensity and the passion take care of itself.
And then what memories do you have from playing in Tallahassee?
The best, the absolute best. Intense, physical, knockdown, drag-out games. Always what you circle your calendar for, in the summertime. And was fortunate enough to be part of some unbelievable games. You always loved football, always loved the opportunity I got at the University of Miami, and we lived for that game every year.
It's kind of a few more, kind of a silly one, so I apologize, but you played a bunch of night games this year. This one's through 30 illegal games at noon. Is it easier for a coach to play earlier in the day than waiting for all day for the weekend?
That's a good question. I think teams are different. Some teams like to get up and hit the ground running. Eat a PB&J and go to the field and play ball. Other ones they like being under the lights. Others like the in between. I love noon games. I do. I like getting up and going. I don't like just don't like sitting around. I don't want to watch. To me, it's like we tell our team when we play on Saturday, it's the only game that matters. So I don't really care about watching other games. I want to go play ours.
The importance of this game, just from a high school recruiting standpoint, how big is this game in that regard?
I think this game, I think all games, I think the season, I think watching programs progress, I think they all factor in, I think recruits are always watching, right? They're watching to see, hey, are the things that we are seeing when we visit a place, are they being validated by some of the things that they're doing on Saturdays? From a personnel standpoint, from a accomplishment standpoint, a progress standpoint, a particular position and their results. So I think recruits are always watching, and they're watching for consistency, for honesty, and for truth.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
he's not saying, most weeks he would have said Tyler's our guy.
Yeah. How's it going?
All right, we'll go right to questions for Office Coordinator Shannon Dawson.
None?
Not a lot going on. Mario said that basically, you guys are always evaluating at quarterback. Just what do you want to see from Tyler, from Emery, from Chikari in speaking practice?
I mean, consistency. I mean, same thing every week.
And obviously, Tyler's been struggling lately, a lot of turnovers. Have you guys been able, I guess, to identify what his main issue has been, whether it's confidence, whether it's still dealing with some nagging injury stuff, or just whatever? Have you guys been able to identify what the issue's been?
I mean, we got to take care of the ball in certain situations. Probably most of it probably has to do with trying to do too much. Let the defense dictate where the ball goes. I mean, when you're back there and, games like that, I knew how that game was going to go. That defense I've been against multiple times in my career, a lot. And so it's a grind. And they keep everybody low. It's 13-10, it's 14-7. Like, that's just how their defense is when they're good and motivated. And I knew they would be motivated, so, I knew that when we got down there, we had to get points. Touchdowns were a premium, right? And so, we got down there really more than most teams do. We got down there a pretty good bit. We just didn't get anything. We got 0 out of 2 possessions down there, or 3. One was right outside. And that's really the story of the game. I mean, I thought we would hit a couple more shots on them, and we didn't hit any, And so typically the way those games go, you hit a couple of those shots and you have 350, 360 yards and you score 20-something points. We didn't hit any. And so it was that was the thing that kind of shocked me the most, is I thought we would have hit a couple one-on-one shots, and we didn't.
And I know we talked about it last week, kind of that thin line between checking down when needed, but
Yeah.
also still being aggressive. How do you think Tyler kind of threaded that line?
There was a lot of times where he did. A lot of times he checked it down and we got 10 or 12 yards. Obviously, the one in the red zone, he threw and it got picked. I mean, he could have checked that one down or could have threw it out there where that guy gets it or nobody does. There was multiple things that could have happened on that play. But we have to learn from those situations, and because those kind of situations put you in a little bit of a pickle, right? And the momentum of the game changes and all the rest. And so, but there was a lot of times throughout the course of the game where, heck, they were dropping 8. They were bringing everybody and dropping 8, bringing everybody, dropping 8. And so the dynamic of that is choppy. I don't know if that makes sense, but we hit them on some screens that probably made them drop 8 more, which windows are shorter, and then that's going to make you dump it down more, We probably didn't get some one-on-one throws I thought we would have gotten in the second half because we were hitting them on those tunnel screens, and that got them out of the blitz mode and into more of the drop 8 mode, which when they do that, you got to run it, which I thought we ran the ball really efficient. I was very, very pleased in our run game, and we just had to hit on a couple throws.
In the past, that in games you're a ride or die with your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain why you think that's the best approach, and is there ever a tipping point for you?
Oh, there's absolutely tipping points. Nothing lives in a vacuum in this world for sure, but I think it's important when you're out there that you know that you have the backing of the people that are on the sideline. That's important, and it was important to me as a player. It was important to me as a coach. It was the way that I was raised as a young coach. And I just think that's the right way to be. But there's a tipping point with everything, right? But I do like them. There's a level of freedom that you have to play with to be efficient, and I don't know if you can play with that freedom if you're in the back of your mind, if you're thinking, if I mess up, coach is going to yank me type deal. So, yeah, but there's a tipping point for everything.
You guys have thrown one great early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M game was phenomenal. What do you feel has changed?
We've, through the course of games over the last 3 games, I should say, or 4, there's been some situations that happened early that probably hurt the confidence of our pass game. You know, I mean, those interceptions, like the Virginia one in the red zone, you know, those kind of plays, you know, they're going to limit the number of opportunities, right? Because that's just the way it is. So we have to ultimately, to be a free-flowing, free-throwing offense, the ball has to get checked down. It has to get put in the right place. That way, confidence is built over time, right? And so relying on the run game at times has a lot to do with our run game is pretty good. And you know what? I mean, we got to do what's working, right?
How do you feel like the receivers are doing with creating separation and running the correct depths?
They're doing good. I mean, honestly, I thought our receivers played really well Saturday. It's hard to see because, you know, they didn't get a lot of opportunities. We had some situations that, you know, we had some double moves and stuff that we had people and the ball just went to other places. But they're staying positive and they're playing hard. I mean, we ask our receivers to do a lot. I mean, our receivers are part of the run game because we get them in there and block the edge guy, and you know their effort has been very noticeable. You know, and they're staying positive, and they know that our pass game is there. You know, it's there. I mean, you know, I've never, you know, typically in my career it's been the complete opposite. To be quite honest with you, it's been the run game that you struggle with, and the pass game is kind of, you know, the easy part. It's a little bit different right now, but we'll work through it, and that's my job to come up with a way that everybody understands and has a clear mind, you know, and that falls on me. I gotta do a better job explaining to them and designing things that are more appropriate for what we're facing.
With that said, how difficult is it when what you're seeing on the practice field during the week isn't translating to Saturday, and then you have to prepare for a game like the Saturday means obviously the world, everybody in this building, and you have that uncertainty at quarterback?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, you want things to mirror what you see in practice, right? And that's just the reality. And I mean, some of the stuff, I got to give credit to them too and their defense. I mean, you know, I think that the adjustments he made through the course of the game were good. You know, and ultimately it shortened windows for us. And so, you know, but yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not happy with the pass game right now either, you know, and that's my job to get that fixed. And so I promise you that is a main focus of mine currently.
Are you philosophically in general against a 2-quarterback approach?
You know, I mean, I've done it before. You know, I've done it before based on, you know, the couple times I've done it was more so what I said the other day that I don't know if people understood what I was talking about, but there was a situation in the past where kids got hurt and I had to burn a kid's year because he was the last quarterback I had. And then I had 2 games left and the starter came back. And it just wasn't fair to me not to play the kid. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I burned his year, and it was a situation where, you know, I played both because I want a year to matter if I burn it. You know what I mean? And so that was a situation that was pretty unique, and it worked out good. You know, both of those kids were very supportive of each other, and our room is very supportive. You know, I mean, you know, we game plan every week, and every week is different, you know, because the source of information is different. And so, you know, I'm not against it, no. You know, I haven't done it much in my past, I'll be honest with you, but I have done it before.
You've been talking about how supportive all the quarterbacks are of each other. How supportive have they been of Tyler the last couple of weeks? It's probably the toughest stretch he's had, I think, in his entire career.
No, I mean, extremely supportive. I mean, it's not all him either. I mean, nobody lives on an island alone, you know. I mean, most of the blame goes on me, to be quite honest with you, because I got to get him prepared to make those plays in those critical situations, you know, and it's only a handful of situations, you know, so ultimately, you know, I live on that island more alone than anybody does, and so, you know, it's a lot of collaborative effort that goes into it, but everybody supports
everybody supports the guy that's playing, and that's been since day one, and that's going to continue to be.
When the passing game was struggling as it is, or as it was on Saturday, Rashard Smith probably is the guy who might have some of the best big playability on the offense. I don't remember correctly. I don't remember seeing him. I know you guys wanted him in the backfield. Was that a consideration on Saturday to get him the ball more often?
It was, he had a couple opportunities in the pass game. I wish we'd have hit the vertical to him in the end zone. I mean, I knew we were going to have that. We were just a little off. That would have been a nice one to have, right? I did not package him in the backfield that week. It was a different type game back there, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I don't know if that was evident to you, but that was a game and the run plays we were running against that defense. Running backs that have taken all those reps need to read those keys. Does that make sense? And so it was just, and that wasn't anything that I didn't do because of him. It was, I knew how that game was going to be, and I knew how that game was going to be at running back, and that's a different style game. I mean, Fletch was awesome, awesome. But look, that was a rough one. That was a physical football game, and that wasn't a in-space football game back there, and so. That is on the table every week for sure. But I got to make decisions based on what I rep in practice for what I rep in the game. I can't do things in practice that I don't think is going to be pertinent to the game, right? And so, but I will say this about him and everybody else. I mean, look, there's a lot of playmakers out there that didn't get the opportunities that they wanted. That was just the kind of game that was, And I want to get everybody that can make plays the ball more, and especially him. And so, it is what it is in that sense. But, all of them had a handful of opportunities, and we were just a little off on all of them, It was just one thing here and one thing there. But the vertical route by him was one I honestly thought we were going to hit. And I thought that when we lined up, I knew that we had the matchup we wanted. And he's great at that route, and it was just 6 inches off,
Cristobal said that Florida State's defense likes to put on a cloud coverage, maybe some cover 1, cover 0 as well. What's unique about that kind of defense to you from what you've seen thus far?
I mean, they're just really good in the back end. I mean, the ability to play man-to-man coverage is something that every defense wants, right? Not every defense has. And when you can play man coverage, then it kind of frees up everybody else, right? And so they're just talented back there. They can line up and play. They can mix it up, but they can line up and play man too, which is what they do most of the time.
Tyler, though, still seems to be, I don't know, underthrowing sometimes and not like he used to be a few games ago. Obviously, we've said this before, but he was hit hard and hurt previously. How is he doing physically? He just doesn't seem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to say that that's got nothing to do with it, it would probably be, I don't know. I mean, all I can go with was what, our doctors and trainers tell us. And I mean, nobody is going to play the game if they're not cleared to play the game, right? And so, and everything coming out of his mouth is good, feels good, and all the rest. I think it has a little bit more to do with just trying to fit it in a tight window, and trying to do a little too much. And trying to be a little bit too perfect, I mean, that's just, sometimes you just gotta let it rip, you know what I mean? And either we get it or nobody does. And so, play a little freer probably. And then in games like that, that's very common. Is we know that opportunities are gonna be few, and so we gotta take advantage of those opportunities. And sometimes when they come up, you want it a little too much.
Just to follow up, as a coach, how do you get that let it rip mentality to not be too perfect?
I think comfort, I mean, you got to have a certain level of comfort out there and freedom just to let it go, I mean, there's no magic formula for that, and I think that when you have a couple games where you make a few mistakes, I mean, that can get in your head a little bit, it's just natural, it's human, I mean, everybody does, And so when those opportunities present themselves again, you want to, trying to be I got to make this work, just execute the play, and he can do that. He'll make that throw 100 times out of 100, or 99 times out of 100.
How do you help to build his confidence back up because he's getting killed with social media. I know.
You pay attention to that?
What?
I said, you pay attention to that?
Absolutely. Yeah, he really is getting it like crazy hard.
Yeah, I'm probably getting a little bit too, huh?
Not as much as he has.
Well, look, I need to be. I mean, look, there's no reason to deflect blame in our business. But I will say this, is that, you know, that position is a tough one. Quarterback position is a position where things are going good. Like the beginning of the year, you mentioned it. We're probably giving a little too much credit, right, when things are going good. And when things are going bad, you're going to get more blame. And that's just the way it is. And we signed up for that. And so you got to have thick skin. You know, you honestly, if you're a college football player today and you're reading social media, then you're making a huge mistake. You know, you're making a huge mistake because it's not the critic that counts, right? And I think everybody's read that and knows that. But, you know, they're entitled to their opinion for sure, but we're entitled to not read it. You know what I mean? And just stay the course, man. Stay the course and keep playing. And so, you know, I mean, I know that there's a level of frustration out there. I mean, we're frustrated too, right? And he's frustrated. And so everybody's frustrated, and it's our job to approach things in a way to where we can go out there and get better, because that's ultimately what we have to do, is we got to go get better today.
Going 3 regular season games forward with the bowl, and Jakari Brown could play without burning his red shirt. Do you anticipate using him a little bit more, kind of mixing things up a little bit, even if it's not like swapping quarterbacks,
Yeah.
the whole just getting him in?
I would say everything's on the table. Kind of what Coach Cristobal said, right? And that I will piggyback what he said.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Based off of the fact that your defense averages under 3.5 sacks per game, is there a particular learning point you've had now as opposed to what you anticipated before the season with how dominant that front seven would be, getting pressure on early?
No, you really don't know until you get in games how you can affect someone. You just kind of break them down, and some weeks you think you have a better chance of getting sacks, and other weeks you don't. And sometimes it might be the personnel, sometimes it might be the scheme. So right now, you know, we're doing well rushing the passer. Hopefully we continue.
Coach, with Jason Davenport getting nicked up last game, you saw some new guys play cornerback. Just what are your thoughts on their performance, and how are those two guys looking heading into FSU?
I thought they played well. You know, the Brown brothers came in. Richard came in for a little bit. The younger Brown did really good. So, you know, it's good that we got those guys in there. And, you know, you always want to play a lot of guys, but sometimes the situations don't allow it, and sometimes your hand is forced to where you have to play them. Like the other night, it was just luckily they were ready to play, and I thought they played well.
What makes Travis so hard to contain as a quarterback? Because he seemed like he really got the offense orchestrating that second half against Pittsburgh last week.
I've been watching him for a couple of years now. It's always something different. You know, he's very mobile. He's got a good feel for the game. You got a guy come free at him, and you think you're going to get him sacked, and he makes that guy miss. He does it over and over again. He knows where his wide receivers are when he scrambles. He's just a football player, a really good quarterback. I mean, you can't say enough about that guy. He is a total football player.
And then similarly about FSU's top two receivers, Coleman and Wilson, what do they do aside from just being tall that makes them really good?
Well, they're not just tall. Coleman's good. He can run. He runs well with the ball after he catches it. He can make a guy miss. He can catch the ball in traffic. Physical young man, and then Wilson's huge, you know. So they create problems, but they create problems for everybody. So I promise you, a guy with a U on his helmet will be out there covering both of them. So well, we're going to battle, you know. I mean, we're looking forward to it, to tell you the truth. So.
That offense likes to run a lot of counter, and this team faced it last year. How much of the preparation goes around kind of containing that counter?
We've been seeing counter all year. Probably last year, they were very, very good at it. This year, I don't know if they're not as good, but they throw the ball a lot more. So you got to deal with the counter with the running back and the quarterback, and then they have the play action off of it. So they create a lot of problems, but they're good at running the counters, their best play, and we'll have to do a good job of defending it, of course.
Obviously, I know you weren't here last year, but a lot of guys on the defense were. Last year was not the best showing for Miami's defense. How eager have you gotten a sense from the players that they are to kind of come back and basically get the same team again?
I think they think of the last year loss as a loss, but for as what happened in the game, they've moved past it, you know. So I haven't really watched last year's game because they're going to attack us different because we're a different type of defense. We line up differently than we did. So we're trying to find the same type of fronts and same type of pressures, the same type of zones that other defenses has ran against Florida State and look at those videos and see how they played it. But who knows what we're going to see. We're doing a good job right now of going back and taking every play that's hurt us over the year because Coach Norvell does a good job of identifying maybe formations or plays that other people have hurt you with, and he comes back and he runs them. So right now we're taking like a intel of all the different plays that have hurt us and working on those as well because we know that they'll come up probably at some point.
There was a running play I think they ran 29 times against you guys last year.
Count. Count. Count.
Yeah.
Count.
Counter.
Yeah, Clemson ran counter. A lot of people have run counter this year. And they're good at running back, you know. I mean, so it's not just their linemen. Their running backs are very good at breaking tackles. Last year we didn't fit things properly, and sometimes the running back just made a play. So we're going to work on counter.
Yeah, I know you weren't here. If I said you guys, you obviously weren't here, but I imagine.
No, but I'm part of Miami, so it's me.
I imagine you've watched it a few times on tape, probably all 29 of them.
Yeah.
What can be done differently?
We're a different structure defensively. So what they saw last year, I don't know what they saw, but they'll take the game. They'll take the run plays that hurt us that other teams have done, but they're going to run counter. We're going to have to defend it well. It's one of the big plays that we got to stop.
Jaden Davis and Darryl Porter, Mario said they're okay for this week. You know, I know the Brown brothers were in there.
Mm-hmm.
How did they do? And just the quarterback situation.
The Brown brothers played. They did good. They came in. I just addressed that a while ago. They came in. They played well. And then hopefully we got both of the other guys as well. Davis and Porter will be in the game. So we'll find out toward, we get later into the week exactly who will be the starter and all that. But a guy with the U on his helmet will be out there.
What are the keys to defending counter in general?
if you knew which way they was going to run it, it'd be better. But, a lot of times you can get a key, whether it's to the running back side they run it or they're running away from the running back side. They run it both. They also run it out of pistol. They'll run it with a tight end off the ball or on the ball, and they'll run it away from them. So there's really no indicator of which way they'll run it. So you've got to make sure that you have an extra defender every time they run it, because if they pull guard tackle, they're creating gaps on the other side. They're taking two and bringing them on the other side, so you've got to be able to add 2 extra guys on that side. How you do it is depending on what structure of a defense you're in. So as you look at it, you just got to be able to remember the game Tetris, where you kind of fit things. That's how it is in fitting the counter. You've got to borrow things from this side to get it over here to stop the play. And then you also got to have a guy on the quarterback in case he pulls it by trying to get people over. So it's tough. It's a tough situation. You can blitz from the side. You can blitz away from it. You can use interior guys to read it and get an extra hat. So it just depends on what structure we're in is how we'll try to stop it.
FSU's tight end, Jaheim Bell, having a very solid season. How do you like the matchup between him and, whether it's a slot corner or a linebacker covering him?
He's a good football player. They do a lot of things with him. They'll run him on speed sweeps. They'll put him out in routes. He even runs the football from the backfield. So he's almost like another running back, almost fullback-ish. So I think we got guys that can run with him and play with him, and we'll have to defend him according to what spot he's in. Not like Concepcion last week, but they do a lot of things with him that you have to identify where he's at and what they like to do when he's in that spot.
I know Kiko Malinoa, I'm sure you guys expected a lot from him the moment he arrived, but how has he lived up to the expectations that you and the rest of the staff had for him?
He's done really well. I think he's one of the leaders on defense. He seems to make the plays when we need him to make it. So he came to Miami to play in games like this, so I know he'll be excited this week.
Coaches always preach play for 60 minutes. You guys were dominant, probably for at least 53 of them. The other night, there's that one drive, obviously the 97-yard drive, where things fell apart a little bit. Is that a teaching tool for you, just to reinforce?
Yeah. Well, the game is a game of emotions. So it's hard to go out there every series of every moment and play your best. I mean, it just is. It's part of it. I thought the other night there was 2 series I'd like to take back. One of them was around midfield, and they got in the spread swinging gate look, and they ran the speed sweep with Concepcion, and we didn't have an automatic check to it like we should have, and that's on me. I didn't know it was coming, but still, it's something you kind of prepare for. And then 1 play led to 2 plays to 3 plays to 4 plays, and they scored. Well, the same thing kind of happened on that long drive. I think the 3rd down that he completed over the middle got him going. And then on another 3rd down, he ran speed option, and we kind of messed up our fit on the speed option, and then it kind of dominoed from there. And sometimes the things that happen before the series kind of affect you a little bit, but for the most part, we were put in some tight spots, and our kids are mentally tough. They're fighters, and I like to go to war with them any day of the week, and I didn't like it. Of course, I want them to be perfect. That's what we strive for, but it's kind of human nature sometimes. So that's a thing. It's a teaching moment, of course, and, we just want to be able to stop the bleeding. Don't let 1-2 plays lead to 3, 4, and 5.
Ask you about emotions.
Ma'am?
About James Williams. He's been playing so well. I know there was one play, I think he was penalized.
Yeah, he was penalized. He actually hit the quarterback inbounds and threw him out of bounds. I'm not an official, but to me that was legal. But
I didn't know if that was in the past, like a couple years ago, he would get.
Yeah, well, he gets emotional. He's an emotional guy,
But he got much better, though. So,
you want to hold him back, but you got to turn him loose too. You don't want to always hold him back. He's scared to do anything. So I thought he was inbounds, and I wish he'd hit that quarterback like he hit the running back. The running back, I wish he'd hit him at the end of the play and wrapped up like that. But James is done really well this year. I think he's handling himself really well. Gets a little chippy at times, and we always talk to him about that. But he's had some really big plays this year and some big hits.
I guess the reason I brought it up is because this is an emotional kind of game. These guys know each other. It's a big game every year, so it gets a little.
It's going to be emotional. I'm going to be emotional. Hopefully I don't get a flag.
How do you see this kind of environment for Ruben Bain to apply what he's learned thus far, being the ACC, being in his hometown as well? How do you kind of see that, being a growing experience for him and also for the Thrive too?
The other night at NC State, at North Carolina, everywhere I've been, when games are packed, they packed. It's all the same. I coached in high school where it was town rivalries, and all you could see was the field, and everybody's around the track, and everybody's up on you. It's the same feeling. It's no different how many people. It doesn't matter if it's 100,000 or if it's 20,000 at a local high school. That feeling is the exact same. I think people get caught up into too much of that. The only thing's different is the loudness, and really that's really on the offense because of snap counts and things like that. But when you're in an opposing field, they don't get loud when we're on defense. It's when we're at home they get loud. So that's the hard part. But to me, a packed game is a packed game. It really is. I know it's to some people they don't think that, but it really is. A packed game in high school, college, no matter where it's at, it's the same feeling.
The other night, James played, back on James, played really physical, very physical game. With the new rules and the way they are, what is your message on playing physical and being physical like that?
Well, you got to be careful not to lead with your head. And that's number one. You want to stay out of the target area, but sometimes it's hard when you're trying to make a big hit and you're trying to run through a guy and he lowers his head. You're going to make the proper hit and he lowers his head and all of a sudden it can be head-to-head contact. So you got to be careful with that. More so when a guy is really running across and maybe he don't see you and it's a blindside hit, that's when you really got to watch out how you hit him. And when you're 6'4", like James is, it's hard to hit low, because you're so tall. So the other night on the sideline, it was really close when he hit that kid. But I tell him to try to run through him. I don't want to take the violence away from the game. I think the game is made to be physical. And whether you're hitting a wide receiver, a running back, or quarterback, when you hit him, you got to make him feel it without being dirty, of course, legally. But, yeah, that's the way the game's supposed to be played.
Just with your experience as a coach, defensively in particular, when an offense is having its struggles the way it is right now, what's your message to your unit, your group, to essentially not let that affect how you guys are playing?
Well, I always look at it as a head coach. I've been a high school head coach. I've been a college head coach. And I always tell the defensive guys, our job is to outplay the other team's defense. That's who we compete against. Our job is not really against the other team's offense. It's against the other team's defense. If you keep it that way, then you never can blame the offense. So if their defense got 4 turnovers and we only got 2, they beat us. So that's how I try to approach it. So if you do that, you keep the finger pointing out of it, and same thing with offense. If we need to score 56 points, we need to score 56 points. You have to outplay the other team's offense. If you do that, you'll stick together. And sometimes it's just a play away. A&M was a close game. Clemson was a close game. The game we won against Virginia was a close game, and we won it because we stuck together. We just kept waiting for the offense to make a play, and they make a play, we came back and we win. So that's what I think the biggest thing that you talk to you guys about is, hey, let's play against the other team's defense. We need to match whatever they're doing, and you keep a togetherness that way.
Have you had that mentality for a while? Like, is that something?
That's just a high school trick that you do, because when you're a head coach, you do everything. You coach offense, you coach defense, you coach special teams, so there can't be no finger point, and you're responsible for it all. So that's the way you talk to your kids. And in high school, sometimes your kids play both ways. But ever since I got in college, I always thought of it that way. I took at it from my head coach's point of view mentally, that's who we're playing against, and I think it cuts down on a lot of that. Because there's, in that series that led to touchdowns, there's things we could have done different defensively that we wasn't perfect. And I don't expect them to be perfect, but there's things we could have done in that game to possibly win as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.